What's up, guys? Some of you have been hitting me up asking for the damage report on the Jeep after the Rubicon trip, so I'll run through that real quick. And for those of you that don't know, long story short, went on the Rubicon with my buddy. This is a 96 ZJ, lifted 4.5 inches on 35-inch tires, and I went with my buddy in a CJ7 lifted up. I believe he did a 4-inch kit on 32s. And we went up there, never been on the Rubicon before. Went up there and basically it turned from a vacation into a survival situation because his fuel pump went out in the CJ and we had to leave it behind and keep rolling in this thing. And we made it all the way through from Loon Lake entrance all the way to Cadillac Hill, which is the last big obstacle before you actually get back onto pretty much paved ground. But couldn't make it up Cadillac Hill. Watched a guy roll a Wagoneer, check my other videos for that, and pretty much turned around from that point. And from there I wasn't being careful anymore. I just wanted to get home, so obviously we did some damage. So here's the damage report. Basically the front axle got beat up pretty bad. What happened is on the way out I almost made it back out to Loon Lake, and then I broke the front passenger side, so over here the CV axle, and that's still broken right now. So if I drive this on the road, because I did drive home, you know, from basically Tahoe to Rockland, and this thing was clicking and clanking real bad. So I still have to fix that. It's a pretty cheap part. I think it's like 60 bucks, and just have to take everything apart and get it in there. But basically what happened is on the way out, after I broke the axle, I didn't have four-wheel drive anymore, and there was just no chance I was getting out of there. So I paid a guy $100 in a rock buggy to tow me, but he beat the hell out of me, man. I mean, he was going fast and, you know, going over lines I could never take in this thing. So basically what happened, axle's broken on this side, and then the control arm, the lower control arm mounts are just trashed. I actually thought the control arm itself was messed up, but it looks like it's just the mount is really bashed. So I'm going to order the heavy duty lower control arm mounts for the front axle and get those welded on both sides, and that should take care of that. I noticed that my front differential is leaking, which is expected because it got bashed on some rocks, and the rear differential is leaking, or was leaking too, and the apartment complex is giving me a hard time about it. So I pulled the cover off, drained it, resealed it. I'm letting the silicone set on the rear one, and then I'm going to fill it back up. Other than that, I got fender damage, front fender damage on both sides. Basically this is all pushed in more than it used to be, so now when I try to turn these big tires, it rubs even more than it used to. And also the transfer case cross member got beat up pretty bad. You can see how it's all kinked in. Also on the trail I had what I thought was a brand new freshly rebuilt transfer case. It's the 249J transfer case, but the guy who rebuilt it, I guess there was a misunderstanding or miscommunication, so he didn't replace the main part that needed to be replaced. And I was popping out a 4-low pretty much the whole time, and I just kept jamming it back in and making it through all the obstacles. So this is the same transfer case now, completely freshly rebuilt, and it should be 100%, and that is a fresh brand new front drive shaft as well. So still got to get a new transfer case cross member, and then that'll take care of everything with the four-wheel drive. The rear drive shaft right now is just barely bolted on because my buddy and I both now have broken bolts off in the yoke. So I ordered a new yoke, and we'll put the new yoke on there and make sure we don't break any bolts, and then the rear drive shaft will be on there nice and tight. And like I said, the rear differential has been freshly resealed, so that's all good to go. Just have to put the fluid in there. And on the back I lost some trim pieces right here on the fender, just because we had so much weight in the Jeep and then flexing so much. I mean, these tires really tuck up in there if you check the other videos out, and basically it just tucked up so high it pulled this plastic piece right off the side, and you can see that the tires got pretty damaged as well from flexing so much going up into the fender wells. They got sliced. The other tire got the worst of it. But there's the diff cover back on fresh, no fluid in yet. So I'm ready to tighten all those down. So the silicone's all set up now, and I'll add the fluid and that'll be good to go. This was actually the damage on the shock that was done before the Rubicon. I might get a new shock, I don't know. It's working okay. And then this tire, you can see right in the middle, from flexing so much getting up into the fender, it actually cut a section of tread out right in the middle of the tire, and the sidewall's all chewed up too. But as far as body damage, I really only smacked a rock right here. Well, I should say upper body damage. I only smacked a rock right here, and that's not bad. I'm not worried about that. I'm not going to repaint that or anything. I mean, I'll spray it just so it doesn't rust, but I'm not going to try to pull it out. But the major body damage that I got on the Rubicon is the rocker panel, mainly on the passenger side. It's really bad, and you know, I'll try to give you a couple different angles here so you can see the depth of it. But basically, I mean, when you're on the Rubicon trail, you've got to make it one way or another. You got to get out of there even if you're getting towed. So you don't really have much of a choice. You got to go over whatever you can go and pick and choose your lines if you can. But sometimes you can't always pick the easy line, and what happened here is I just didn't have enough ground clearance, and basically came down and cased pretty hard on a big rock. And luckily for me, it just blew the plastic trim piece that covers this whole section up. It just completely blew that off. Didn't crack it or chip it or anything like that. So I still have that whole piece, and what I'm going to do, what I've already done actually, is I hammered down on all of this because my doors wouldn't even open and close on this side. So I had to take a hammer to the door jambs and beat that down enough so that the doors would open and close without a problem. And then what I'm going to have to do is paint all this bare metal so it doesn't rust, and then I will screw the trim piece back over the top of this, so actually you won't even know it's there. So the biggest advice I could give you for the Rubicon trip is make sure you have rock sliders, because otherwise you're probably going to get some rocker damage. So the good thing is the rock sliders I'm looking into are set up to actually go outside of the plastic trim piece. So like I said, I'll get this all squared away, painted, and I'll put the trim piece back on, and then the rock slider right over the top of that, and you'll never know this was here unless you crawl under the Jeep. And I got just a little bit of damage to the other side, but that trim piece is still on. And if I go underneath here, you can see just how bad that pinch seam is, and I will have to straighten that out because part of the rock sliders bolts onto that pinch seam, so I'll have to do a little work on that. And same thing on this side too, on the front fender. This is all pushed in, and now the tire rub's pretty bad. So you know, that's pretty much the damage report. So I'm looking at altogether having to do new front axle on the passenger side, and I had to do the transfer case. That's already been done. Driveline's been taken care of. Got to just seal up both of the differentials. So kind of a lot of damage, but it's getting there one step at a time, and I'll have this thing back on the road in no time. So anyways, check out the other videos. There's plenty of this Jeep. Also, there's plenty of footage of the Rubicon Trail. So check that out. Make sure you like and subscribe. All right, see you guys.